Next up, I'm delighted to welcome Kelly Becker, Schneider Electric's UK and Ireland President. Kelly has been at Schneider Electric for nearly 10 years, leading the business across the globe with a focus on strategy and business execution. Kelly, welcome. It's fantastic to have you here. Once again, everybody, please do send your questions in for Kelly using the Q&A tab, getting some really good conversations going here. So Kelly, could you please start off by telling us briefly about your career journey?
Sure, thanks Michelle for having me. So I actually started my career in sales right out of university. Frankly, took the highest paying job that I got. It just so happened to be a predecessor company that Schneider eventually bought. I sold large scale energy conservation projects to universities and school districts in the US, and then progressively grew into that. Left the working world for a couple of years to get my MBA full-time, spent time working both in product management as well as strategy roles before really moving in to run businesses, which is what I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years. As you mentioned, I'm running our UK and I business since January of this year, and prior to that I spent 2 years in Dublin running our Irish business.
That's amazing. And how would you explain women in leadership? You know, how do you actually get there?
I think everybody's path is different, and that's actually what's really exciting to be on a panel with ladies like this is what you'll see is that all of our careers are quite different. For me, actually starting in a commercial role was excellent because so much of what I focus on now is what do our customers in fact need? How do we make their experiences better? You know, are we ensuring that we're delivering an experience as well as products that serve what they're looking to buy? But honestly, I think for me, it's come in a couple of different ways. I've always taken jobs that I expected to be excellent at. So if I was going to do a job, I was going to do it well. I was going to put in the hours, I would put in the time. I also took a number of roles through the years that maybe other people would have seen as risky. So a business that I ran in the US at one point was a turnaround, which means it needed a completely new approach to how we went to market, how the team worked together. Some of our people that, you know, didn't fit for the growth strategy or weren't really ready to go where we were trying to go. And at the time I took that role, you know, I think a lot of people said, oh gosh, who wants that job? But in fact, it was the best job I could have taken because I got to make it my own. And I think those kinds of roles are exceptionally interesting. So honestly, I've sort of done so many different things to get where I am. I think when you look back on your career, we all pretend like it was planned in the way that has come about. But in fact, for me, I took roles in which I just built different blocks of information and knowledge. That's what's gotten me here.
Sounds like you've nailed it.
I don't know about that, but.
So when it comes to diversity and inclusion, why should that now be top of our agenda when it comes to hiring future talent?
Well, because diverse teams serve their customers better, ultimately. And, you know, I'm a big believer, Michelle, in a meritocracy. So the best person gets the job in my organization. However, you know, ultimately, diversity of gender is only one component of this. Diversity of background, diversity of geographical background, diverse educations, diverse experiences are what I'm really looking at. And so for me, it's because our customer base is getting more and more diverse, as Barbara talked about initially. We need to look like our customer base. We need to reflect the people that are buying and making those decisions as well. And I think so many different backgrounds and experiences create a team that's far more dynamic than the same person, you know, times 10 or times 20 in the room. And so for me, it's diversity for me is such a broad topic. We talk a lot about it, certainly being men and women, but it's so much bigger than that, I think, at this point.
Yeah, you're so right. So we have actually had some questions. So I'm going to dive right in because we've got a few here. Okay, so how has it been to work in sales across different countries? How did you prepare yourself? What were your challenges and how did you navigate through them?
So I think sales is one of the best ways you can actually spend time in your career, whether you naturally believe that's where you should be or not, because figuring out how to deal with so many different types of people is what makes me good at my job today. So what I learned at 22, which was I could present to the president of a university and I could talk to the maintenance person working on our equipment, right? Different conversations, valuable in the same way. But I do that today as well, quite regularly across our entire organization and externally. And so sales for me is such an interesting way to build, it builds resilience because you get told no a lot. And you have to, sort of convince yourself that you're going to show up the next day, even when you've had a hard day. But really, people are people and they want to deal with people they like. They want to deal with people that bring something interesting to the table. And so I think if people can get an opportunity to spend time in sales or external facing roles within companies, it's really valuable in your career.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Actually, somebody else has asked, was sales an intimidating environment to be in as a woman?
I think it probably was, but honestly, my personality is enough that, like I said, I like to win. You have to like to win if you're going to be in sales. You have to like to be the best at what you're trying to do. And my training class at the time was, another woman and myself, and the rest were men. And guess what? The two women sold projects first. We because we approached it differently, I think. Yes, we did. And she's honestly one of my closest friends still 20 years later, because you bond as well when you're in that sort of environment. So I think there are so many successful salespeople, regardless of gender, regardless of background, but you have to make it your own. And I think that's what's really important. How are you successful in what you're doing? Sales and frankly, any other portion of your career.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, another one. How would you deal with colleagues who don't actually share your values of equality? How would you suggest people early in their career handle those tricky situations?
So I have always believed, and this comes from the way I was raised and my parents, that you have to live by your ethical standards always. And it's if when you start to give those things away, it takes away from who you are, and it's sort of painful internally, actually. And so, not everybody's always going to agree with you. Not everybody may have been raised the same way. And so I think you have to know what you stand for, and you can't be shy about that. You can do it in a very polite manner. But it can be hard, especially early in your career when you're junior in what you're doing, to stand up for what you think is important. But the minute you start to let your values be influenced by others, then your values don't matter anymore. And I think that's what you have to really remember always. Is this something I can live with? Or is this a non-negotiable for me?
Yeah, stay true to yourself.
Exactly.
We've actually had a question here. So it's from somebody that used to work at Schneider Electric. They thought it was a great company for championing women, and they would be interested to hear, now that you're leading the business in the UK, coming from Ireland, is there anything to learn from Ireland that you are now going to bring across to the UK, us being very close neighbours?
So our business in Ireland was much smaller than it is in the UK. And so the team actually worked closer together than our UK teams just because of size.
Yeah.
And so we have been in the UK trying to ensure people have community, which is a really important component, which we had in our Irish business and built because of the size. And so what we're focusing on in the UK now is how do you create different types of communities for employees within the company based on things that are important to them. And that's probably one of the things that we've taken. So, obviously I worked in our US business, which is enormous, and that was a challenge. And so that was probably one of the biggest things I actually learned from the Irish business was fitting in is important, and having a place where you feel comfortable is really important. And how do you create that in a much larger environment?
Okay. I think we've got time for one more. Okay. So and this is kind of leads on from that actually. So how do you ensure the importance and benefits of a diverse workforce is fully understood across the organization?
It's a really hard one. It's a stump one, quite frankly, something we're constantly talking about and really working through. You know, I don't believe in a zero-sum game. I don't believe that because women are getting opportunities that means there are less opportunities for men. I just don't buy into that dialogue that is certainly out there in the world right now. Like I said, I believe in a meritocracy. The best people will get the jobs because that's what's right for their company and that's what's right for our customers. And I think that's the conversation we have to have, that this is about high performance culture. This is about delivering for your colleagues and for our people, and the best people will get the jobs. And you know, I'm never going to put someone into a role that I don't think can do the job, simply because of gender diversity or diversity of a different type of background that we talked about. That's not going to happen. People are going to get the job because they deserve the job or because they bring something different to the job. And so what I would say to everybody is understanding your own unique qualities is really important. Don't put yourself in the same bucket as other people. What do you bring to a job or to a company that's different? And be capable of talking about that, because that's in fact incredibly important.
Thank you, Kelly. Really
Thank
looking
you.
forward to hearing from you again a little bit later on at the end of the panel.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.